Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's first stream, although second news update. And in case you are wondering where is the first one, well, on my channel, on both of my channels, on YouTube and Rumble, if you check, you can see walk and talk video that I published this morning from streets of Moscow. And well, already, I believe more than 1,200 members of our community saw the video. And if you have a time, please check that video out and leave some commentary or like. That might help her to reach wider audience, of course. And well, as I said, this is second news update. A lot of news, by the way, a lot of news. And later on today, at about 9-10 p.m. Moscow time, I will have a third update, although on my Patreon and Boosty pages. So if you are not subscribed, please consider to do so. That will be also a great support, of course. All the links are on this video, of course, in the description box and in the pinned comment. And after the news segment, if there would be any questions or the comments or topics highlighted that you want to have a discussion, if you send it through support platforms, PayPal, Boosty, or Super Chat on Rumble, of course, I will react on it. Okay, hopefully this change in the programming will do good, right? And community will be happy with it, and then I will be happy also. Okay, that's been said. Let's go through some news, dear friends. And well, I will start, and I have to start, unfortunately, with these reports about work of Russian air defense systems past night. It's a regular occurrence, and I spoke about it partially, at least, during the first update. And so, past night, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Russian air defense systems intercepted 152 drones that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO. I can give you details on that. 65 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod region. This region is coming under heavy fire regularly, but especially lately. 35 drones were intercepted over the Saratov region, 16 drones over the Crimea, 8 were destroyed over the Voronezh region, also a drone over the Rostov region, 4 each over the Krasnodar territory and the Sea of Azov, 3 each over the Volgograd region and Tatarstan, 2 each over the Kursk and the Lipetsk regions, and 1 each over the Tula and the Tver regions. And that's what was happening since 11 p.m. yesterday evening, late evening, and 7 a.m. this morning. Although we have update now that from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., air defense systems intercepted another 34 drones over the different Russian regions. And of course, many of you have noticed significant increase on this long-range strikes on the Russian Federation, attempts conducted by NATO member states and their proxy Kyiv regime. And on this matter, yesterday, for example, according to Defense Ministry's report, air defense systems intercepted 7 guided aerial bombs, also Neptune long-range guided missile, 21 US-made HIMARS multiple launcher rockets, and 541 drones. 541 drones, by the way, among those other things. So definitely, numbers are quite telling. Definitely significant increase on these long-range attacks on the Russian Federation. And while seeing these numbers, I think Western countries, NATO member states, clearly seems like very much focused on production of these drones, long-range drones, and they are managing to deliver large quantities of these drones to Kyiv regime. And by the way, it's not just the drones that NATO provides their proxies in Kyiv, but also flight path, targeting data, intelligence, everything is coming from NATO, basically, and they are using Kyiv regime just for this plausible deniability. In reality, this is a NATO long-range strikes on Russian Federation, and we all know that. Russian air defenses, of course, are doing best they can to intercept as many aerial targets as possible, and vast majority of incoming targets, or incoming aerial targets, missiles, drones, glide bombs, are usually intercepted. And there are more and more additions in these techniques of interception. And for example, right now, I want to show you short video of Russian darts drone being deployed to intercept this fixed wing drone that was launched by NATO and the Kyiv regime. And well, it's a quite impressive video, by the way. Maybe many members of our community have not seen this technique of interception, and well, we will see it now. And so this is the video. So you see, drone is flying. This one is a fixed wing drone that one of the types of drones that NATO and Kyiv regime is using for these long-range attacks on Russian Federation. And you can see this high-speed interceptor drone that was launched by Russian militaries, and it's a kinetic strike. Seems like this drone, interceptor drone, don't really has an explosive on the board. It destroys target with kinetic strike. So I guess it's guided with AI. AI is fixed on a target, and then AI does it automatically, right? So quite impressive, I will say, quite impressive. Definitely, these relatively cheap interceptor drones will help Russian air defense systems significantly, because, of course, it's better to use this type of interceptor drones than very expensive, let's say, interceptor missile, either for S-300 or S-400 or Buk system, for example. Those missiles cost, I guess, 20, 30, 50 times more than these interceptor drones. So I think some interesting addition when it comes to means of interceptor to Russian militaries. So good news there. Good news in terms of equipment update. But unfortunately, it is practically impossible to intercept all the drones always 100% of the time. And almost every day I'm sharing information with you about casualties among civilians as a result of these long-range NATO Ukrainian strikes on Russian territory, and today is no exception. Unfortunately, civilian was killed in the Bryansk region as a result of this drone attack conducted by hostile side. Information was shared with public by governor of the region, Alexander Bogomaz. He wrote about it on his Max page. Max is a Russian messaging platform, by the way, that is gaining popularity here in Russia quite rapidly, and will continue to do so, I guess, especially nowadays when decision was made by Roskomnadzor to slow down significantly Telegram, very popular, or most popular, still most popular messaging platform for now. So because of this Telegram slowdown, of course, Max probably will become even more useful, I will say, for the public. Anyways, let's continue with the news. And Ukrenergo, Kyiv regime's institution, reported that as a result of Russian retaliatory strikes in Odessa, Kharkiv, Zaporozhye, and Sumy regions, there was blackouts. And it's not just these few regions, by the way. Throughout Turkey-controlled territory, blackouts are everyday occurrence nowadays. And with retaliatory strikes, Russian militaries are dealing quite significant damage to not just military and logistical infrastructure of the hostile side, but also to energy infrastructure. And of course, you all know that. Meanwhile, Zelensky is making headlines. By the way, Zelensky is making headlines. He gave an interview to BBC British propaganda outlet, and even without these interviews on daily basis, he's making statements on his pages in social media. And with one of the statements, he went to insult Trump and express hope, kind of, that Trump will resign. If someone will tell this Trump, definitely this information would not go down well in the White House. But let me give you details on this report from RIA Novosti in this case. So Vladimir Zelensky has questioned the credibility of the U.S. President Donald Trump, according to this interview with the BBC. In an interview with the British publication, British broadcaster, journalist asked the head of the Kyiv regime whether he trusts the occupant of the White House, particularly when it comes to security guarantees. And this is a quote of Zelensky's answer. It's not just President Trump. We are talking about America, and presidents, we all do for their appropriate times. We want guarantees for 30 years. For example, political elites will change, leaders will change. That's why Congress votes for them. It's not just a president. We need a Congress, Zelensky responded. In other words, Donald Trump may be an unreliable partner, but he won't remain president forever. And this is BBC's interpretation, according to RIA Novosti. And yet again, these kind of statements, under whatever interpretation, definitely not going to go down well in a White House. Question is, Trump will be told about it? But Zelensky did not stop there. He went to say during this interview with the BBC that Ukraine allegedly will seek a return to its 1991 borders, calling that their only acceptable definition of a victory. Zelensky admitted, this is currently impossible due to insufficient Western arms supplies. He's blaming West. Despite all these hundreds of billions, literally hundreds of billions of dollars and euros of Western taxpayers that were wasted on this proxy war that Western elites are waging against Russia, and despite Zelensky himself becoming a filthy rich while stealing billions, right? God knows how many billions of this Western taxpayers' money, he dares to criticize West for losing this fight, which is also something quite extraordinary, but that's what he said. So he admitted that currently it is impossible to return to 1991 borders due to insufficient Western arms supplies, but claimed it is only a matter of time. Yeah, of course. He also argued that Russia has already started World War III and that the response must be increased military and economic pressure on Moscow. Kyiv is also demanding 30-year security guarantees from the United States to be approved by Congress. Until such guarantees are in place, no presidential elections will be held. He said, even if the current US president proves unreliable, Kyiv insists the guarantees must remain binding beyond any change in Washington. So, well, quite interesting there, quite interesting. Of course, Zelensky is delusional, and no one really cares what Zelensky personally has to say, but he is a talking head of globalists, right? He is a talking head of globalists, and that's the only reason why me or anyone else would pay any attention to his statements. And well, based on what Zelensky said, globalists clearly are out of touch with reality. If they're still dreaming about strategical defeat of Russia, establishing control over the entire territory of this former Soviet entity, Ukraine, in its 1991 borders, and I guess globalists are moving even further in their dreams and are establishing control over the entire Russia while dividing it, right? And they're pocketing between each other, right? Sharing between each other. These freaking delusional psychopaths, man, right? But that's with whom we are dealing. So that's with whom we are dealing, by the way, right? That's what globalists are. And this is also not all. Zelensky not just claimed that Russia allegedly started the Third World War. Not the West that orchestrated coup d'etat in Kyiv in 2014, or not the West that orchestrated the military confrontation between Georgia and Russia in 2008. But somehow, according to Zelensky, and that is the globalists, I would say, it's Russia that started the Third World War, which is insane thing to say, right? But they are insane. So what else you expect? But anyways, he also went to say that NATO should view Oreshnik as a legitimate target. He is calling on NATO to basically take military action against Russia and Belarus. He said Lukashenko is making a big mistake. Issue is not only about Oreshnik. Everyone sees that they are now doing more of a show. I mean, it's all pure nonsense. But nevertheless, because Zelensky is a talking head of globalists, one might assume that this is a globalist that basically are moving all the institutions that they are in control of in the West, including NATO, towards military action against Russia. And Zelensky is just highlighting this, while saying that NATO should view Oreshnik, Russian hypersonic missile system, as a legitimate target. I mean, seriously? And NATO now going to go ahead with their open direct strikes against Russia? Well, I'm afraid it's only a matter of time, and we will actually see direct clashes between Russian militaries and their NATO militaries. It seems absolutely inevitable at this point, either before end of this year or in the first half of 2027. Well, there is a little hope still, by the way. There is little hope that maybe Western societies somehow, maybe some miracle will happen. Western societies will wake up and realize that their freaking elites are jeopardizing the lives and the livelihoods of everybody in this world, including in the Western world, right? And maybe these Western societies will actually begin challenging these so-called elites that they have. There is a little hope for that. I understand the chances that this will happen is like next to none, but still, by the way, if there is 0.1% chance, then let's hope that chance will prevail, right? But anyways, this is not all when it comes to Zelensky's statement. He is also demanding from Europe to allocate money to finance Kyiv regime's army, not just now, but in the future also. And Zelensky is saying that Kyiv regime wants to have a professional army, not a conscript military, but professional army, and Europeans gonna pay for that, have to pay for that, right? And I don't know what ordinary Europeans think about it, but Zelensky will find very many supporters among European elites on this matter, because you can imagine how much money they're gonna steal, man, on this scam of financing Kyiv regime's army. They're gonna steal another, I don't know, man, dozens of billions, right? And enrich themselves beyond their wildest dreams that they ever had. So yes, that's what is going on. And Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, made statement about Zelensky today, maybe in response to this interview that he gave to BBC and make some crazy statements. Maybe it's not related, but Medvedev actually went out to Zelensky, and he said that better if Zelensky will seek asylum and escape to Europe, or he will be hanged by his own people right on the Kyiv's Independence Square. Fate of Mussolini and Hitler are perfect examples. Medvedev said, and you know what, I can give you short video of Medvedev statements. It's in Russian, by the way, but there is some subtitles, so you can read there. You can read it. So this is the video of Medvedev's statements.
Сказать, что, по моим ощущениям, некое осознание того, в какой они ситуации, постепенно приходит. Но для части руководителей этого государства, как бы мы их ни называли, какими бы эпитетами ни награждали, мы с вами понимаем, что продолжение военных действий – это продолжение собственной жизни, скажем прямо. Если боевые действия заканчиваются, в лучшем случае удастся сбежать куда-то на территорию одной из предельных стран, там, не знаю, в Польшу, в Британию, там, в Европе, еще какие страны другие, которые предоставят убежище. А в худшем случае, да, свои же и повесят прямо на Майдане где-нибудь. Судьба Бенита Муссолини и Адольфа Гитлера является абсолютно показательным примером, как и тех, кто был впоследствии предан суду, осужден, а во многих случаях казнен Советским Союзом.
So that's what Medvedev is saying, and I think he's not alone who thinks this way. Either Zelensky will manage to escape, and I don't think he's gonna escape to Europe. Most likely he will escape to Israel, right? Either he will manage to do so, or he's finished, man. He's gonna be neutralized. I think there is only these two choices. There is nothing else left for Zelensky, and even if he manages to escape to Israel, I don't think he's gonna be safe there for a while. Probably some people will get to him in Israel also. Most likely from Ukraine, people from Ukraine that were used and abused by Zelensky's fascist regime, right? And I remind you, dear friends, that recently, when it comes to this Kyiv regime, Western-backed terrorist regime in Kyiv, recently we see first open confrontation between former head of Kyiv regime's general staff, Valery Zaluzhny, and Zelensky, right? And this might be the indicator for things to come. Seems like London is getting more and more tired of Zelensky, and seems like London is in a hurry to replace him with Zaluzhny. And how they going to replace Zelensky with Zaluzhny? That's a big question. That's a big question. They might not necessarily wait for so-called elections. They might choose some other means, right? And that's why I am saying, and Medvedev probably says the same for same reason, that Zelensky's time is limited. Either he will escape Ukraine now, or tomorrow might be too late for that, right? And yes, London has its own candidacy, Zaluzhny, but seems like Washington has different opinions about who's going to replace Zelensky. So that's going to be a whole different story then. But Zelensky is finished, right? Zelensky is finished either way. But he can act, man. He can continue to act and be useful, and that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna be as useful for a globalist as he possibly can, and as long as he possibly can, to secure himself and his riches that he stole, right, from people, from citizens of Ukraine and from Western taxpayers. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And you know, dear friends, there was a big gathering today in Brussels where discussions are supposed to take place about 20 sanctions package, anti-Russian sanctions package. And, well, they failed, basically. Brussels bureaucrats failed to implement this 20th package, first and foremost because of the opposition from Hungary and Slovakia. And Hungary's foreign minister was assaulted, basically, not insulted, but assaulted by these so-called journalists, Western so-called journalists, some of them from Kyiv control territories, some of them God knows from where. And Peter Siarto was attacked, actually. And he stand his ground. He stand his ground, responding to this all sorts of nonsensical questions. And you know what would be better if we will listen to Siarto's statements. He defended position of Budapest. He defended position of Budapest that that Hungary has every right to protect itself from Ukrainian aggression, from aggression of their Kyiv regime. And he's pointing out that there is no technical or any other reasons why Druzhba pipeline is still not operational, right? And until Kyiv regime is blocking this pipeline, Hungary will take some countermeasures, and Hungary will block, as Hungary's prime minister, by the way, Viktor Orban stated earlier, Hungary will block any diesel shipments to Kyiv control territory. Hungary will block any military loans from Europe to Kyiv regime, including that 90 billion euro loan that was already approved by Brussels. And Hungary, Viktor Orban stated that Hungary will block this 20th anti-Russian package also. 20th anti-Russian sanctions package. And that's what exactly happened, right? And Siarto was defending this stance of Budapest. And let me show you a few short clips on this matter. It is interesting, by the way. It is interesting. Let's listen together.
Why are you financing the war by buying? You financing the war by buying Russian oil? Why are you doing that?
I mean, what kind of journalist is that? That is asking that, well, Hungary is financing Russian war while buying Russian oil. What is wrong with these people? Where these people are coming from, right? How, I mean, level of their degeneracy is beyond anything, right? Hungary is buying just like tiny percentage of Russian oil. And for Russian budget, it really does not make much difference if Hungary buys any oil or don't. And that's exactly what Peter Siarto said in his response. Just listen to it.
But, you know, do you know the amount we are paying for this oil supplies? Do you know the proportionate of that to the Russian GDP? What is that?
It's small, but still.
Okay.
It goes on draw.
0.2% of Russian GDP. Don't be unserious. Don't be unserious. It is a sovereign right of ours to decide.
And Peter Siarto is very polite. I mean, don't be unserious. That's a very polite way to tell that so-called journalist that, I mean, that person should go and read some freaking books, right? And increase level of knowledge in everything. Peter Siarto was still very, very polite. You know, I wouldn't act this way, man. I would say just go and kill yourself, filthy idiot. That's what I would say, right? But yeah, Siarto is a diplomat, so he used to use different language. I'm not a diplomat, man. Thanks God.
Where we are buying the energy sources from and what kind of energy sources we buy. This is our national sovereign right. And we are not ready to buy more expensive energy sources than the current ones, and we are not ready to buy from less reliable sources than the current one. This is our sovereignty issue. I understand that there are some advices and good ideas to us how to do it, but I never give any kind of good idea and good advice to any other countries, you know, how to put together their national energy mix. So the thing is...
Basically, Siarto is saying, just leave us alone, you know. We are fed up with your advices and your good ideas. Just leave us alone, you know. Mind your own business. And I mean, yet again, he is extremely polite and diplomatic there, isn't it?
Is that this is a very hypocritical approach. What you have just referred to, Ukraine does not have the right to put our energy security at risk, and we want them to restart the oil deliveries to Hungary immediately, because there's neither any technical nor any physical reasons why they do not restart the oil deliveries to Hungary while endangering our energy security. And it's very frustrating, to be honest, that here in Brussels they usually stand on the side of a non-EU member state against EU member states. So,
and this is very important also. Hungary is clearly under assault, isn't it? And from one side, it's Kyiv regime that is interfering in Hungary's internal business, including upcoming elections, by the way, and that's going to be a big issue soon. And on the other side, it's Brussels, and there are quite a number of EU member states that are attacking Hungary on a regular basis, including its neighbors, Poland, for example, which is crazy. And Hungary should be wary about all these developments, and they are clearly, right?
Ukraine, so the European Commission behaves kind of like a Ukraine Commission, and this is unbelievable.
True, man, absolutely true. One can understand why many Hungarians are so disappointed, including Hungary's leadership is so disappointed in EU, right, and in EU bureaucracy. Unelected one should be emphasized. Also, and this is not all, Seaart also went to say that
because Hungary was one of the author of this idea, like compromise, during the council, and now you said that you will not vote for this decision.
Right.
Does it mean that you revoke your support to this scheme, and you will actively block this? And
Yeah, the situation has changed. The situation has changed. Ukraine. Come on, are you living on this world, or are you serious? So you don't know what has changed since then? You don't know. You didn't hear. You didn't hear about the decision of Ukraine not to restart the oil deliveries to Hungary? I guess you did. There is no physical reason, there is no technical reason why the Ukrainian state has decided not to restart the oil deliveries to Hungary. This endangers our energy security. This is the change. This is what happened. So whenever the Ukrainians decide to restart the oil deliveries, we can rethink the situation. The ball is on their court, not on ours.
everything is quite clear there, isn't it? And can you imagine, dear friends, how hard it is to be diplomat? And can you put yourself in shoes of any top-level diplomat, either Russian ones or Hungarian ones in this particular case, when you are facing these freaking morons that pretend to be journalists, and you have to gather all the nerves you have to keep your calm, right, and still be polite, even with these freaking morons, man. I couldn't do that. There is no way I'd be able to stand there this calmly, right? I mean, clearly you can see on Seaart's face, he's kind of frustrated, right? But he's still polite, man. I wouldn't be able to do so. I would just freaking, I don't know, man, what I would do, but probably beat their freaking crap out of these freaking idiots, man. Guys, not the woman ones, not the female ones, but if there was any guys there, I would just freaking take their heads off. So thanks God I'm not a diplomat, definitely not my job, right? And this is also not only, friends, let me give you another video from Seaart, also interesting one.
To be honest, that here in Brussels, they usually stand on the side of a non-EU member state against EU member states. So the European Commission behaves kind of like a Ukraine Commission, and this is unbelievable.
Yes. So you already hear this episode. So what you gonna say? I mean, Seaart is on point, isn't it? Hungary's leadership clearly has a point when they are standing strong on their principal policies to protect her national interests of the Hungary. And despite attacks of these so-called journalists, I mean, well done to Arto, man. I would not manage to keep my cool, man. I would smash the freaking faces of those idiots, man. Or I will just never even talk to them, because or I will advise them, you know what, go read a couple of books, right? Come back in 2-3 years time. Let's have a conversation. Maybe that's the best way, right? To deal with them. So, okay, let's continue. Let's continue with some other news. But, well, Hungary made statements before this gathering in Brussels, that they're going to block any assistance for Kyiv regime because of the hostility of Zelensky and his criminal associates. And that's exactly what Hungary did. And 20th package of sanctions were not adopted. And Kaja Kallas, little earlier today, admitted that EU will not be able to agree on 20th sanctions package against Russia at the Brussels meetings. And that's exactly what's going to happen. There's no way either Hungary or Slovakia are going to change their position, because, yet again, energy security is a extremely important topic for both, right? Also, current situation in Brussels, kind of forcing head of European Commission, von der Leyen, and her criminal associate, Costa, to postpone visit to Kyiv, because they don't really have anything to talk about once they will arrive, right? So European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the European Council President Antonio Costa, they cancel their trip to Kyiv, political reports. The main reason is the European Union's inability to agree on a new 20th package of sanctions against Russia, as well as their delay in approving financial assistance to Kyiv regime in the amount of 90 billion euros, according to this American publication. And yet again, well done, Hungary and Slovakia. Well done, man. What can I say? TASS news agency is also reporting that when it comes to bad news for globalists and their puppets in Europe, in this particular case, in EU bureaucracy, then we have this report that Brussels failed to get US and G7 support for blocking Russian oil supplies. So the European Union has failed to get the United States and the G7 support in order to jointly block Russian oil deliveries under the 20th package of anti-Russian sanctions. Diplomatic source in Brussels had told the TASS news agency. And as I said, man, there is a kind of avalanche, isn't it? Don't you get that impression that there is a sort of avalanche of negative news for globalists in Brussels that are mounting now, isn't it? And gaining their momentum and their force. And if my understanding of the situation is correct, as time goes by the way, this avalanche of bad news for globalists and Brussels bureaucrats gonna only accelerate, increase in volume, which is a good news, I will argue, right? But nevertheless, well, globalists and their puppets in Europe, all these anti-Russian elements, can still say that they got some little win, little victory in the quotes, because EU extended anti-Russian sanctions until February 24, 2027, basically for another year. Easy if this comes as a surprise to anybody, and if anyone on this planet expected that EU would lift all these anti-Russian sanctions, it's a routine stuff. It's a routine stuff nowadays, but nevertheless, at least Ursula washing machine can say something, right? That, yeah, we at least extended sanctions against Russia. Okay. And she will probably brag about it, right? But of course, hostility of European countries against Russia is not stopping on sanctions. Yesterday, I shared information that British defense minister, for example, defense secretary of UK, stated that he wants to be first head of military who will, in NATO, in Europe, who will send their troops to keep control their territory. And And this is dangerous, obviously, right? This is extremely dangerous. This is a direct path towards conflict, open conflict between UK and Russia, between UK allies potentially and Russia. But this is not all. This is not all. Very same Defense Secretary of UK, John Haley, literally, according to reports, had a chat with his colleagues from 10 European countries, 10 European NATO member states, and topic of discussion was preparation of their ground to implement sort of maritime embargo on the Russian Federation. So they are not just talking, by the way, they are actually working on the policies. And that's what makes them extremely dangerous, right? And well, on this matter, Russian general stated that there is a serious probability of Western provocation on the Russian border that will provoke then direct open clashes between NATO troops and the Russian troops, which is exactly the case that I was talking about for a very long time now, isn't it? So Western countries could provoke a conflict with Russia by dressing their troops in a Russian uniform and staging a provocation on the Russian NATO border, stated Major General Sergei Lipovoy, a chairman of the presidium of the officers of the Russian organization. According to Lipovoy, war could only be begun in the event of a large-scale provocation against Russia on the NATO border. He noted that exercises had already been observed in the Kaliningrad region, at the training grounds in the Baltic sides near Kaliningrad region of the Russian Federation, at the training grounds in the Baltic states, where units were equipped with the Russian military uniforms and used Russian equipment, simulating offensive actions reminiscent of provocation. And you know what? If there is factual evidences, and I don't think Russian general, by the way, would say something like that without seeing actual proofs that during these numerous exercises, military exercises, NATO troops were actually using Russian uniform, Russian equipment. Well, this is a big deal. This is a big deal because I remind you, dear friends, how Germany launched and justified the war against Poland. German troops dressed as Nazi Germany's troops, by the way, dressed as Polish militaries, isn't it? They crossed the border, then opened fire on the German direction. I remember I cannot remember details, but maybe they even killed some Germans, right? It was a pure false flag operation, right? And then this was used, I believe, by Third Reich as justification to go ahead and occupy Poland. So this is nothing new, really. This tactics is nothing new for history. And if there is photo and video evidences, right, that NATO troops are actually training in all sorts of provocations, dressed as the Russian militaries, and they're with the Russian equipment, Russian-made equipment, and I mean they can get their hands on Russian equipment. By the way, I mean so many countries in this world are customers of Russian military-industrial complex, isn't it? And after all, certain volume of Russian equipment fail as a trophy into hands of Kyiv regime's forces too. Whenever there was some unfortunate developments on the line of contact, let's say, right? So they can actually have, and most likely they do have, this Russian-made, let's say, equipment, uniform. It's easy to freaking made, right? Copy. And well, this is definitely a scenario that I personally didn't really think about, even though I said many times that the Baltics region, for example, is definitely a potential hotspot, potential area where Western Republic was going to provoke direct clashes between Russia and between NATO troops and the Russian troops. But I didn't really think that these NATO idiots are gonna copy their actions of Nazi Germany that they committed against Poland. But yet again, seems like that's exactly what they are doing. They are working on this scenario as one of their ways they might provoke confrontation. Of course, they will work simultaneously on a number of other scenarios too. And as I already said, dear friends, unfortunately and tragically, I think there is a tremendously high risk that before end of this year or in the first half of 2027, globalists will actually provoke direct clashes between troops of a number of NATO member states and the Russian Federation. And it is anybody's guess how things gonna go down after that. And when it comes to potential escalation in the Baltics, well, I mentioned this information during this walk and talk video this morning, but I think it is important to once again mention that allegedly France is deploying its aircraft carrier in the Baltic Sea. Charles de Gaulle, I believe it's nuclear powered aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle was left the port of Toulon on January 27 and will participate in several NATO exercises and missions, including Baltic Sentinel. Right, and if you now keep in mind what British Defense Secretary was talking about with some 10 of his colleagues from other NATO member states about hijacking Russian vessels and basically implementing maritime embargo. When you keep in mind there are other hostile statements from Baltics region, also NATO member states, all of them, right? All of them, by the way, are NATO member states nowadays. And now this information that NATO is gearing up in Baltics for something. Well, one might assume that once they will finalize buildup of enough naval assets, enough military assets, they might actually try to implement a maritime embargo on the Kaliningrad region. They might try to simultaneously shut down Gulf of Finland for Russian vessels and also Kaliningrad region, either for Russian vessels, all the vessels under the flag of other countries, but ones that are, entering and leaving Russian ports. So if they will go ahead and do that, of course, Moscow will not really have much option but to take retaliatory steps and secure maritime route for Russian Federation. Am I correct? So I clearly see tremendous dangers, by the way, tremendous risks due to this insane behavior of Western elites. I don't know what is your take on the situation, but now they are deploying freaking nuclear aircraft carrier in the area. I mean, seriously, what the hell, man? As I said in this morning's update, by the way, I was thinking that US would ask France to deploy this aircraft carrier close to Mediterranean, Iran, to participate in anti-Iranian operation. But probably Pentagon will not do so. Washington will not ask Paris because lately relationships between the two are not really that friendly, right? And Paris find a way how to use this aircraft carrier. They're going to send it to Baltics. UK has 2 aircraft carriers, isn't it? If both somehow are operational, which I have significant doubts about, but if both are operational, wouldn't be surprised at all if UK will send one into Baltics, another one to close to Iran to participate in attacks, right? That US and Israel will lead. Let's see, by the way, but Baltic Sea, Baltic region definitely is becoming place where most likely we will see direct clashes between NATO troops and the Russian troops. Everyone thinks probably, or most of the people probably think that this kind of open direct clashes will happen in Ukraine, but I don't know. Baltics is being turned into extremely dangerous place by NATO countries, so it could be Baltics. Anyways, let's continue now with some other news. And I already mentioned Iran, isn't it, dear friends? And we have some updates in regards to Iran, Middle East, and new false narrative is being pushed by Western propaganda, by the way. This time around to somehow gain support of Europeans for assault on Iran. And New York Times, for example, come up with this crazy article that Iran allegedly plans to attack American targets in Europe in response to U.S. aggression. So if U.S. President Donald Trump strikes Iran, the Islamic Republic could call on its allies to retaliate against American targets in Europe and the Middle East. New York Times reported, citing sources, according to newspaper sources, Iran has no specific terrorist plots against the United States. For God's sake, how you can call terrorist plot? If Iran is attacked, Iran has every legit right to retaliate. So if Iran will retaliate, let's say even on European soil against American assets, that would not be terrorist attack. That would be legit retaliation, right? That will be legit retaliation. Since when no one country in this world has any right to defend itself, with the exception of Western countries? You attack Iran, Iran has every reason to defend itself under every legit means, right? Everything they do is legit from the moment you attack them. Period. There is nothing to discuss there, right? Everything, according to law of war, right? Even war has certain laws and principles, and as long as Iran is bound to operate in certain framework, all their actions against any American assets anywhere in this world is legit if US is attacking Iran, including in Europe. But you see, New York Times, they are framing it as a terrorist plot. And there are still some people, by the way, that take New York Times seriously as a serious newspaper. Seriously, this is a freaking toilet paper, man. Freaking toilet paper. That only being used for propaganda means nowadays, right? There is no serious journalism to be expected from this garbage, right? But that's what they are writing. According to newspaper source, Iran has no specific terrorist plots against the United States. However, the source noted that increased interceptions indicates a certain level of planning and coordination of their attack. Yet again, total nonsense, I think, even though Iran has every right to defend itself, right? And if attacked by US or by Israel or by both, and then number of other countries, Iran has every legit rights to strike back on them anywhere on this planet, right? That's what war is actually. But I don't think Iranians will attack U.S. targets in Europe, although they should, if they have an opportunity to do so. But I don't think they have that kind of capabilities, really, right? Otherwise, why would you attack U.S. assets in Europe? If you have enough assets, by the way, enough capabilities, then attack U.S. on its own soil, right? That will make more sense if you bring pain to your enemy on its own soil. But of course, Iran not going to attack U.S. assets neither in Europe, neither in U.S. Most likely, some groups, some elements might act independently, autonomously, right, and do some stuff, but it would not be Iran's operation, right? But what Iran probably will do is, they will try their best to target US military bases in the Middle East in a range of their missiles and the drones. Probably Iranian Navy will try to target US naval assets in reach of their warships, or maybe some maritime drones that they might have actually. And that's about it. That's about it, really. But we will find out. In any case, I think this kind of articles in the Western media is serving one purpose: to to basically build up support in Europe for potential attacks on Iran, or for inevitable attacks at this point, by the way, on Iran, because attacks on Iran are inevitable, absolutely inevitable. And all these talks about negotiations on 26 and 27, it's just BS, right? US is just gaining some time, and that's about it. And already, according to reports, dear friends, US has deployed 40 to 50% of its deployable air power against Iran. 40 to 50% of US's air power is already allegedly has been deployed, dispersed throughout the Middle East, and also are based on those 2 aircraft carriers that already been sent to participate in this anti-Iranian operation. And yet again, they might send third one. Pentagon might send the third one if that third one is operational, maybe fourth one also. They will send everything they have, basically. That's what I want to say, right? And I'm not going to be surprised if US don't really has any more truly operational aircraft carriers, because once that they send, by the way, even they are kind of effed up. And you have probably seen, isn't it, all sorts of reports that there's tremendous issues on these aircraft carriers, by the way. I mean, on Gerald Ford, for example, which was deployed in the Caribbean and was spotted in a Greek island of Crete, Crete's Souda Bay. And right now you can see a screenshot. I can show you a video itself, by the way. So this is the video of this US aircraft carrier in this weather or whatever bay on Crete in the Mediterranean. And you have probably seen all sorts of reports, isn't it, that there are tremendous issues with the psyche of their personnel there on Gerald Ford. And there are also technical issues, right, in terms of living conditions. This aircraft carrier was for quite a while deployed throughout the world, eventually end up in the Caribbean, you know this, right? And was sent now towards to participate in strikes on Iran. And reports are that even toilets are not working. And this is a serious issue, by the way. You are on a freaking floating junk, right? Floating can. And I mean, even toilets are not working. That's information that is circulating on the internet. It's issue, right? Nothing to be said about many sailors were planning to get to home, see their families, and so on and so on, and they're gonna stay now on this warship, and maybe, who knows, maybe become target of Iranian drones or something. And yes, as I said, they have some significant issues with the psyche now, and I'm not really sure that this Gerald Ford is actually battle capable. I really don't think. I doubt that this aircraft carrier 100% battle capable, man, and crew. You know, and I forget. I was thinking to share some additional information, but I forget about it. But anyways, this aircraft carrier that crossed Gibraltar just a few days ago, already right there in a crater. I can show you, friends, that bay that this aircraft carrier went in. I try to show you that bay. So where is the Mediterranean? This is the Mediterranean, right? This is a Crete here, Crete Islander, and that bay is supposed to be somewhere here, right? It is, man. That's the area. That's the area that this aircraft carrier was spotted. So it passed quite a distance, really, in past few days from Gibraltar to Crete. Probably this aircraft carrier will move closer to Cyprus and will be stationed somewhere there around Cyprus, because from there planes, FA-18s and whatever other planes, F-35s, if there is any on the board, probably there is, they be able to strike Iran through several directions. They can cross Israel, for example, then Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, or they can enter Syrian airspace, then Iraqi airspace and strike Iran like that, or they might enter Turkish airspace and then strike Iran from Turkey. Or they might go even further and they might enter Turkish airspace, then Armenian, Azerbaijan, and they might strike Iran from north, like that way. There is different options, of course, but this kind of strikes can be done only with the assistance of air refueling tankers, because neither FA-18, neither F-35 is capable to take off somewhere from Cyprus area, for example, if aircraft carrier is based there, and then go to strike Iran and go back to aircraft carrier. None of them are capable of doing so without aerial refueling, right? And I think this aircraft carrier gonna stay in Mediterranean, close to Cyprus, because passing through Suez Channel, by the way, gonna be extremely difficult, because you see there is plenty of places that this aircraft carrier can be ambushed. Plenty of places this aircraft carrier can be ambushed, and any strike on this aircraft carrier will be a tremendous media victory, of course, isn't it? And so therefore, I think even though I don't have high expectations about intellectual capabilities of American leadership, political or military, I think even those morons in Pentagon do understand that sending this aircraft carrier through through Suez Channel is just unacceptably high risk. Maybe nothing will happen, but if something happens, then it's going to be, of course, massive media victory for Iran and tremendous blow for US. So therefore, I think they would not risk. And that's why they send this aircraft carrier into Mediterranean, by the way. Otherwise, they would send it around Africa and then close to somewhere here, close to Oman, right? Maybe a little further than that. So yes, this second aircraft carrier, Gerald Ford, is already around Crete, in one of the Crete bases, and soon will be in operational range to strike Iran with assistance of air refueling tankers. But I still think US don't have enough power, military assets in place to sustain high level of military pressure on Iran for several months on end. And they need several months on end strikes if they want to achieve, if they want to create true power vacuum, to push society in Iran towards civil war. And that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what Western ruling class wants, I believe, right? So therefore, Don't be surprised if in near future you will hear officially that third aircraft carrier were deployed or will be sent. Also, some amphibious warships with large decks that might house F-35s or American version of Harriers, right? And don't be surprised if UK will send its aircraft carrier also. And one should keep in mind that Cyprus itself, by the way, is kind of serving as for NATO, for UK and US, first of all, as a massive aircraft carrier, because UK has its massive base here, isn't it? Which is formally UK territory. You might be surprised, but UK did not really, I guess this is their base. UK didn't really transfer control over this land to Cypriots. So this territory formally is still a colony of UK. And I believe Iran has enough long-range missiles to strike Cyprus, that corner here, where this base is located. Anyways, even though US is in full speed of preparations of these strikes on Iran, Washington continues to play this game about negotiations and stuff, right? As if anybody is being fooled. I mean, there is literally, I guess at this point, there is nobody in this world that actually believes that US wants the escalation, US seeks peace and stuff like that. No one believes in this. Everyone understands that US is just messing around. They are using diplomacy as a tool of deception, right? While gathering its military assets, continuing this military buildup. Everyone understands this, but for whatever reason, this nonsensical game continues. And the Iranian foreign minister, for example, was invited on CBS propaganda outlet of US, and there was asked questions about negotiations and this and that. And well, he went to say that Abbas Araghchi, by the way, went to say that he might meet with US President Special Envoy Steve Witkoff on February 26 in Geneva, where next round of talks might and probably will take place, although I'm not sure this will happen on 26th of February, because there are reports, by the way, there are reports that Witkoff will be together with Kushner, son-in-law of Trump, will be in Geneva on 27th of February. So probably there is some miscommunication between their sides, because one is saying that there might be talks on 26th, another is saying that they will be in Geneva only on 27th. Whatever the case, Abbas Araghchi was asked about negotiations, about by CBS so-called journalist, about demands from the US. And let me give you some short clips of Abbas Araghchi's statements. I guess he understands also perfectly well that US is just messing around, US leadership is just messing around, using diplomacy as a tool, right? While massing the forces. I guess Abbas Araghchi also understands that he has a target on his back. Because when US and Israel will launch attacks, probably, and most definitely, by the way, they will go after entire political and military leadership of Iran. That includes Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also. Correct? And I believe during the 12-day war, they did try to kill Abbas Araghchi. They failed, but they did try to kill him. And they will try again. And this guy has nerves, man, this Abbas Araghchi. He has nerves, right, to be engaged in this nonsensical game. Because Iran actually wants the escalation. Iran actually wants to avoid war, because they know perfectly well, even if they manage to withstand the pressure and maintain unity, right? Damage that will be done to Iran is going to be absolutely devastating, right? And maybe it will take decades to actually fully recover. So therefore, of course, for Iranian side, it makes all the sense to try whatever you can to avoid confrontation that you don't want. But one side is not enough. The US is absolutely, US, Western ruling class basically, US is a tool in their hands, isn't it? Western ruling class is absolutely determined to destabilize whole Middle East, to shut down navigation into Persian Gulf, right? And they will go all the way, by the way, to achieve this, right? Let me give you short clips of Abbas
Nuclear.
Araghchi.
You are offering a nuclear-only deal at this stage because Secretary Rubio said anything meaningful would also have to involve ballistic missiles and your support for proxies in the region.
And Rubio was acting, of course, on behalf of Israel because it's Israeli side that demanded Iran to get rid of its missile capabilities, so that it will be sitting duck. Israel will strike whenever they want, and Iran wouldn't be able to retaliate. And of course, Iran cannot accept this kind of demands, right? But look what Abbas Araghchi is saying. Just look.
Well, right now we are negotiating only nuclear, and there is no other subject.
Okay. Would you be willing to allow weapons inspectors unfettered access?
You see, there is talks only on nuclear matters, enrichment of uranium. No missile, no ballistic missiles has been, topic of ballistic missiles have been negotiated. And you know what? American delegation might actually never even mention ballistic missiles. And eventually, you know, when Pentagon will brief their bosses that they are ready now. They did best they can to prepare for, attacks and so on. At that point, Washington probably will say, you know what, we tried diplomacy, it didn't work. Iran didn't agree on our demands, didn't agree to get rid of missiles, didn't agree to get rid of this and that, and therefore there's only military option left. That's what they're gonna do, man. Right? They don't even have a freaking fantasy to come up with something, right? More or less believable. But let's listen to Araghchi.
Sites and for American inspectors to be among them?
Well, we are a committed member of NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, and we have a safeguard agreement with the agency, International Atomic Energy Agency, and we are ready to cooperate with the agency in full according to the safeguard. And we may accept, with certain conditions, the additional protocol to the safeguard, to the NPT. And I think a full verification mechanism, full monitoring mechanism is acceptable and can be in place.
So, I mean, Iran already demonstrated, by the way, on numerous occasions that they are absolutely not against finding some compromises, right? Iran's representatives already said that they are ready to transfer highly enriched uranium, enriched up to 60% to Russia, for example. And Moscow said that, yeah, we can take it, right, and secure it. Iran also said that they are ready to downgrade the level of enrichment up to from 60 to 20%, which is necessary for some medical equipment. So they will enrich uranium up to 3 to 5% for nuclear reactors to produce electricity, and up to 20% for medical equipment. Right? Iran already says this. But US, for whatever reason, Washington ignores these statements, right? Washington ignores Iran's position because they are not about achieving de-escalation, man. This is all freaking nonsensical bloody game that US is engaged, man. But yet again, what Iran can do in this situation? On one side, they are preparing to embrace the impact, right? And on the other side, they are trying desperately to gain some time as much as possible, right? To prepare better. And all these people, by the way, leadership of Iran, including Abbas Araghchi, these are dead men walking, man. All of them have a target on their back and most likely will be killed in a few days by American or Israeli strikes. So instead of taking care of themselves, they are still engaged in a public diplomacy, in politics, and trying whatever they can to protect Iran, right? Protect people, by the way, because this attack on Iran from US, Israel, and their allies going to be extremely, extremely destructive. We all understand this, isn't it? Because Western and Israel want to create power vacuum. So only way you can create this power vacuum if you are decimating any existence of state institutions throughout the country, right? So you can imagine the level of destruction that US and Israel and their allies are preparing to bring to Iran. And there is another video also, by the way, from Abbas Araghchi that I want to share with you.
President Trump plans to strike Iran, or is he using this threat as leverage?
Well, I'm not, I cannot judge, but one fact is there that if they want to find a resolution for Iran's peaceful nuclear program, the only way is diplomacy. And we have proved this in the past, and I believe that still there is a good chance to have a diplomatic solution which is based on a win-win game, and a solution is at our reach. So there is no need for any military buildup, and military buildup cannot help it and cannot pressurize us.
Well, you said on Friday that you would have a draft proposal within 2 to 3 days. Have you gotten the Supreme Leader to sign off on that proposal yet? And if so, when will you give it to Envoy Steve Witkoff?
Well, we are still working on that, and we are trying to make it something which consists of elements which can accommodate both sides' concerns and interests. And we are working on those elements. And I believe that when we meet, probably this Thursday in Geneva again, we can work on those elements and prepare a good text and come to a fast deal. This is my understanding. I see it quite possible.
Well, yet again, this is game, by the way. I don't think Abbas Araghchi actually believes that deal can be reached with Washington. I don't think Abbas Araghchi or any other official in Iran actually believes that U.S. leadership is serious in regards to these negotiations. Because if they're believing this, they are fools in that case, and I don't think they are fools, right? I don't know them personally, but I don't think they are fools. So none of them believe in this, but that's what diplomats do, man. Your task is to gain some time for your country and do whatever you can to avoid their devastating, absolutely devastating conflict with their superpower. And that's exactly what Abbas Araghchi is trying here. But yet again, we all know what's going to happen. We all know what's going to happen, by the way. And well, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but seems like there is no force that can stop Western ruling class from attacking Iran and from destabilizing the whole region. I don't know. We will find out, by the way. And also, I think interesting news to stay in the Middle East, by the way, in the region. U.S. forces withdrawal has begun from their largest base in northern Syria. Convoys carrying armored vehicles and all sorts of stuff, leaving Haseka province for the Iraqi border. move is a part of a broader reduction of US troops in the region. And well, you see where these troops are moving? They are moving from Syria to Iraq, by the way. And what I said about plans of the Western ruling class in regards to Middle East, they want full-scale destabilization, right, of the Middle East. They want to create power vacuum in Iran with their incoming attack to force Iranian society, ethnic groups to enter the civil war, right? They want to spill this civil war on Iraq from Iran, civil war that will go on ethnic and also sectarian lines. They want to provoke war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, potentially with their involvement of other Gulf kingdoms. And when it comes to Syria, by the way, Syria is already a mess, right? And already in a civil war. That's what their plan is, and their hope, as I have said many times before, hope of the Western elites in regards to this operation in the Middle East is to shut down navigation into Persian Gulf for a long time, for years, by the way, not for a day or months or 2 months, for years, so that they will not just cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources, but will first and foremost will cause tremendous damage to Chinese economy, right? And then will force China to increase its dependence on Russian energy up to absolutely critical levels, right? And yet again, if anyone don't understand still, why would the West wants China to be that dependent on Russia? Its answer is on the surface, by the way. Any extreme dependence is dangerous, right? Any extreme dependence is dangerous. And if Western elites will succeed in this plan and China actually become extremely dependent on Russia, at that point, by time frame, we can say by 2030, 2035, Western elites might activate their fifth columns in both countries, and I'm afraid they have fifth columns in both countries. They will activate those columns. They will create tensions between Beijing and Moscow. They will put fear in Beijing, in Chinese leadership, that Moscow is about to turn away from China. And that will put China in a corner, isn't it? Chinese leadership might begin fearing that they are done, basically. If they're going to lose supplies from Russia, energy supplies from Russia, they are finished, right? And this fear might basically force Beijing to go ahead with military operation to secure closest energy fields. And it happened that closest energy fields to China are in Russia and also in Central Asia, by the way, in Kazakhstan, for example, which is rich with oil and is a neighbor of China. And also there is a big gas reserves in Turkmenistan, which is not a neighbor of China, but actually not far away, really, right? So that's the strategy of the Western elites, right? That's the strategy to basically, after some time, in decade from now or 15 years from now, create tensions and then potentially war between Russia and China, and they're basically decimate global South. And by doing so, they will get rid of from their potential competitors. That's what they want, man. That's what they want. Western elites, that is. And if they succeed, yet again, if they succeed, I mean, there is no guarantees that humanity will survive. You know. Also, a few more news, dear friends. Another video is circulating on internet with Russian Su-57 export modification in skies of depicted in the skies of Algeria. Let me show you this video, by the way. Let me show you this video. I wonder how many Su-57s Algeria actually purchased. because this type of videos are emerging like every other week now, isn't it? So this is the video and sound of engines, by the way. It's quite specific sound, isn't it? It's really quite something. So it seems like Algeria is definitely the first country who purchased Russian Su-57s, and I'm quite sure not the last one. Soon we will learn that more countries are queuing in to buy Russian Su-57s, and well, French Air Force definitely would not be happy about this development because I believe pair of Su-57s in Algerian Air Force can easily decimate 2 squadrons of French Rafales, at least 2 squadrons. And I'm saying at least 2 squadrons because Su-57s will run out of missiles at that point, right? And probably guns also, rounds for guns. So they can take out 2 squadrons, and if they are piloted by profis, right? If they are piloted by profis, I have no doubts that Algerian pair, that's a 2, by the way, planes, but most likely Algeria purchased at least 2 squadrons of these planes, which is 12 planes, right? 1 squadron is like 5-6 planes, isn't it? So probably Algeria purchased at least 2 squadrons, maybe even more, and this is something that probably will keep French pilots awake at night, because one day they might actually end up against Su-57s and they would not even know what hit them. They will perish without understanding what the heck just happened, right? So yes, some interesting news there. Also, dear friends, I reported yesterday that Pakistan conducted strikes on Afghanistan territory, and of course Afghanistan condemned these attacks, and Kabul is claiming that 18 people were killed as a result of this attack by Pakistani Air Force. Afghanistan is also threatening retaliation, and Kabul is not alone in this regard. India also condemned Pakistani airstrike on Afghanistan, and basically demonstrated its support to Talib government, at least indirect support to Talib government. Definitely, by the way, something is going on in Pakistan, because I don't know, man. Because Pakistan is in between these 2 forces, China on one side, US on other, and there is also involvement of obviously British Secret Services, but mainly China, US. This definitely tears apart, right? This artificially created entity, created by Brits, and if you add to that all the domestic issues that Pakistan is facing, then well, this country is in trouble. What can I say, man? Pakistan is in big trouble, right? And world is in big trouble also, because Pakistan is a nuclear country. So humanity needs to make sure that these Pakistani nuclear weapons not going to end up in the hands of some faking maniacs, right? So I don't know how, but something definitely has to be done about Pakistan nuclear weapons, man. Because this country, I'm not sure this country will survive another decade or 2. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, the risks that Pakistan is facing, but am I really? So you know what happened in Mexico, isn't it, dear friends? It's a total mess there. In some counter cartel operation or something. There is not even a clear picture for now yet, but as a result of some operation, head of new generation of Jalisco cartel group, someone named El Mencho, was killed, and these criminals from this cartel went on a war against the state, and they began burning down everything. They could. They were engaged in a gunfight with the security forces. Many officers of security forces were killed. Also, many these criminals from drug cartels, terrorists, I will say, because that's what they are, man. Have you seen videos? They were burning buses and attacking airports and they're terrorizing people. That's terrorists. That's the actual definition of terrorism, when certain group is trying to achieve its what political goals, for example, through terror campaign. And clearly they are positioning themselves to have some political goals, right? And they are influencing politics of Mexico big time. Let's be real on that too. And so yes, there was a total chaos, by the way, and situation is still extremely dangerous in at least 5 states of Mexico. And I can show you some videos. It's like a war zone. What was happening there? For example, take a look at this one. As I said, they're just these criminal terrorists and criminals and terrorists just went and began burning down everything they could. And timing is interesting, isn't it? Timing is very interesting, by the way, because you know, Mexico is a country, one of the few countries that, despite U.S. embargo, pledged to assist people of Cuba, right? This is another video, for example. Look, it's like a war zone. Absolutely insane. And you know, different opinions, of course, different opinions are circulating on internet, but me personally would not be surprised at all. I mean, would not be surprised at all if behind this unrest in Mexico is US, by the way, CIA, because when it comes to drug trafficking, which organization is on top of the game? It's a CIA, right? None of these cartels would exist either in Mexico or in Colombia or anywhere else if they had no links and if they did not cooperate with CIA. We all know that, correct? We all know that. And so I was wondering, you know, maybe this is not just a random development, but Washington wants to put Mexico in its place, government of Mexico into its place, forced to obey orders, right? And one of the ways US leadership tries to do it is war on the government with hands of cartels. I don't know, dear friends. You might agree with me, you might disagree with me, but I think this unrest, this volatile, tragic events in Mexico that took life of at least 18 innocent civilians I think are orchestrated by CIA. And you might be surprised, by the way. I managed to make it, man. I just spotted that this notebook was running without charge. Wow. Wow, this old notebook, by the way. Can you imagine? All this hour and a half was running without charge. And I just noticed this, and if I was late for another minute or so, probably it will turn off. So sorry, dear friends, for this little chaos here, but that's my take, right? That I think there is a probability that this tragedy in Mexico did not happen without the involvement of CIA and US leadership. That's my take on that. And unfortunately, last time I checked the news, there was reports about at least 18 civilians being killed, but I'm afraid this number will grow because security forces are not yet actually managed to stabilize the situation everywhere, and I'm not quite sure they will be able to stabilize the situation because in many areas these drug cartels are actually in charge, right? So that's what is going on in Mexico, and I'm afraid situation will continue potentially to escalate there. And a few more news, dear friends, for this news summary. As I already said, at least 18 people have been killed as a result of this unrest in Mexico. Also, it's not just Mexico that is assisting Cuba, by the way, but I mentioned in my previous updates that tanker carrying Russian fuels is about to test, basically, Trump's blockade of Cuba. Vessel believed to be carrying Russian fuel is heading to Cuba, directly testing the Trump's syndicate's sanctions as their island faces a worsening energy crisis. Information is coming from Bloomberg, by the way, and well, let's see if this tanker that carries Russian oil will be stopped by U.S. militaries or if it will reach Cuba actually. And meanwhile, Ireland is definitely facing tremendous energy crisis, and Russian avio companies were forced basically to conduct some emergency flights to Cuba to evacuate Russian tourists, and flights has been suspended after that. 4,300, approximately 4,300 Russian tourists were evacuated from Cuba in past several days, and according to tourist companies, avio companies, flights from Russia to Cuba will resume only after fuel issues will no longer exist, right? Fuel for jets, by the way. There is also a jet fuel crisis, not just fuel for cars or their power plants, but it's a jet fuel crisis too. And well, hopefully that vessel, that tanker that carries fuel from Russia or from whichever country will manage to reach the Cuba and help a bit people of Cuba. The Seahorse, this is the name of the vessel, expected to arrive in early March, is transporting urgently needed fuel supplies according to maritime intelligence firm Kepler Ltd. So, I mean, until early March, it's still, by the way, like 2 weeks. I mean, not 2 weeks exactly, but at least a week, right? And then God knows when exactly this vessel arrives, and Ireland needs all the assistance it can get right now. But I wonder if this vessel is under Russian flag and if it will manage to break through this blockade. Absolutely illegal blockade that Trump's administration imposed on Cuba, as it is absolutely legal. All the sanctions and the restrictions that U.S. has imposed on Cuba after revolution, all of it is illegal, by the way, and crime against humanity committed by the U.S. And a few more news, by the way. A new Baikal aircraft powered by Veka 800 engine made its maiden flight. This is a short distance, domestically built short distance passenger plane that are very much needed in Russia because, biggest country in the world, right? And there are many marshruts that you're not going to use a wide fuselage plane, right? Because there is no infrastructure in place all over the Russia. There is no even need, not that many passengers even, right? And these smaller planes that can carry 20, 30 passengers definitely are needed, and there is a market for it, for thousands of it actually, throughout Russia, and they're potentially outside of Russia too. And already 3 prototypes were built of this plane, and hopefully all the test flights will be successful, and soon Baikal will enter the service and will replace older generation AN-2s, by the way, legendary AN-2s, and also helicopters. In many areas here in Russia, by the way, helicopters are deployed to provide people with their connection with the major towns, right? And some settlements, some villages are so isolated, by the way, from civilization that there is only aerial ways to get to there, right? There is no ground or roads or anything, just through air, man, by helicopter or by planes, right? Russia is big, man, biggest country in this world, right? So good news here, good news. Also, I want to share this report that France has summoned the US envoy after Trump's administration sounded the alarm over there, what he described as the rise of violent radical leftism in the country. The remarks came after alleged member of the left-wing group killed the French right-wing activist Quentin Darancu, and well, at this point, by the way, I don't really understand what in the Western world there is even means to be left or right. Many people have been indoctrinated all sorts of psychopathic ideology, by the way, that has nothing to do either with socialism or leftism or the right-wing movement. It's just divide and conquer. That's what is going on. Powerful groups are dividing society and running the show. That's what is going on, right? And unfortunately, there are many morons on the both sides of the aisle that call themselves right-wing and left-wing and stuff like that, and they actually hate each other. And unfortunately, there are instances when they are actually killing each other, not just insulting each other verbally or stuff like that, but they are actually killing each other, which is crazy. But I don't think this is about left and right, because in the Western world nowadays, by the way, I don't think either socialism is being understood what it actually means, and there is a different interpretations of their socialism, and I don't think even capitalism is being understood in the West nowadays properly, right? Because if you take a look at the Western countries, it's not really capitalist countries. It's countries that are corporative fascist, that are run by corporative fascist regimes, right? That has no connection with their people whatsoever and sees people as just economical unit. So therefore, what are they talking about? What left-leaning radicals, what right-leaning radicals? They don't even know what they are talking about, man. And I will end this news on this reporter from RT. The China urges US to scrap all tariffs. Call has come from Beijing's Commerce Ministry after US Supreme Court struck down most of the Donald Trump's duties introduced last year. And well, call is good, maybe, but Trump already made it clear that he's not gonna take down no tariffs. He's actually increasing tariffs by 50% on all countries in this world, right? So that's the answer from Washington, and this does make this behavior of White House definitely does make nervous very many countries in this world. Just before I launched live stream, I was reading one article that about UK, and there was information that British leadership allegedly is extremely frustrated with Trump because they have no freaking idea how to do business with Washington, right? Because almost every other day there is some fundamental changes that is either announced by Trump or actually implemented by Trump, and British and UK is of course closest ally to US, or at least that was the case for many years, right? Decades. And now even London is kind of struggling to understand what the hell is going on. And if that is the case with London, then you can imagine how other capitals feel, right? So, yeah, some chaos, man. It's a time of chaos, era of chaos, and it's extremely dangerous, man. Hopefully, let's hope humanity will survive 21st century, man. Let's hope for that, because this century might be even more dangerous than previous one, and previous one was in many ways bloodiest century in humanity's history, isn't it? And dear friends, that's it for a news segment itself. Today there was no super chat on Rumble. Unfortunately, there was no questions or the comments through other support platforms, through PayPal or Boosty. So therefore, let me end live stream on that. Hopefully you find it informative and interesting. Later on today, at about 9:10, I will publish today's last update on my Patreon and Boosty pages with all the additional news that will be reported by Russian media in next several hours. Well, for tomorrow, dear friends, I will try to make a walk and talk video first again, as I did today, and then at 5 p.m. live stream. So let's see if I will manage to sustain this type of schedule in the morning, in the first half of the day, walk and talk type of video whenever weather allows this. Then at 5 p.m. Live stream, and on YouTube and Rumble, that is, in both cases. And then late evening at approximately 10, last update of the day on my Patreon and Boosty pages. Hopefully I'll manage to do this. And so, yes, this is it, dear friends. Nidish Kumar is asking, Levaner, are you uploading videos while going to work? No, Nidish, you missed the news. I left that job, man. I did not went on that work after fourth day, because our deal was that I'm working 2 days, 12 hours, and then I have 2 days off, and then I'm working 2 days, 12 hours each, then 2 days off. But they wanted me to work every day, right? And therefore, on the third or fourth day, I missed my program. And there is no way I'm going to jeopardize this project, by the way, for that work or any other, right? I invested so much time, by the way, so much energy, right, in this project of mine, that of course I'm going to prioritize this project. So, I left that work, and I will try my best to stay focused on this project. I will increase my work, and hopefully community will appreciate this and will support me better, or maybe I be in a better position financially. Therefore, that is my hope. Let's see, by the way. If not, then, one day I will again find some work, but only if that work would not mess with this project. Otherwise, I'm always going to prioritize this project. And I'm not making premieres. This is actual live stream, Nidish. When I'm making live stream, it's actual live stream. On few occasions, I did a premiere of the video, and when you are premiering the video, it looks visually like live stream. But I only done this like few times in like 4 years of I'm doing this project, so that's how it is. When I do live stream, it is live stream actually. And so this is it, dear friends. If you like my work, if you like to support me, you can do it. Under this video, you will find all the links to PayPal, Boosty. Please subscribe to my Patreon, by the way. This evening, I will have a next update there. If you don't like Patreon, subscribe to my Boosty page. And yeah, this is it. See you tomorrow, dear friends. Take care.